I was 19 when my father told me, don't ever come back, so I didn't. Not when I had nowhere to sleep, not when I was starving, and definitely not when I became more successful than he ever imagined. But 7 years later, he showed up at my office, and what he said next changed everything. Growing up, I was never the son my parents wanted. That title belonged to my older brother, Daniel. Daniel was perfect, straight-A student, captain of the basketball team. Teachers loved him, neighbors talked about him, and my parents, they worshipped him. Every dinner conversation somehow came back to Daniel. Daniel got another scholarship offer. Daniel's coach says he's got a future. Why can't you be more like your brother? And me, I was just there, not failing, but not shining either. I wasn't interested in grades, I wasn't interested in sports. I was interested in building things, ideas, projects, dreams that didn't fit into textbooks. But every time I tried to explain that, my dad would just shake his head. Dreams don't pay bills, he'd say. And every time he said that, something inside me got quieter. It all came crashing down one night. I still remember it clearly. We were sitting at the dinner table. Mom had made her usual Sunday meal. Daniel was talking about college offers. And then my dad turned to me. So, what about you? That question. It felt like a test I was already failing. I took a deep breath and said, I'm not going to college. Silence. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall. My mom froze. Daniel stopped eating. And my dad, he slowly put his fork down. What did you just say? I want to start my own business, I said. I've been working on it for months. That's when everything exploded. A business? He laughed. You can't even stick to one thing for a year. This isn't a joke, I said. I'm serious. He slammed his hand on the table. You're throwing your life away. No, I said quietly. I'm trying to build it. That's when he pointed at the door. If you walk out of this house chasing this fantasy, you are no longer my son. I wish I could say I hesitated. I wish I could say I thought about it, but I didn't, because deep down, I knew something had already broken. Not just in that moment, but years before it. Every comparison, every doubt, every time I wasn't enough. I stood up, grabbed my backpack, and walked to the door. My mom whispered, please don't go, but my dad didn't say a word. And as I stepped outside, I realized something terrifying. I had no plan, no safety net, just a dream and a point to prove. The first year, it wasn't inspiring, it wasn't motivational, it was brutal. I slept in my car more nights than I can count. Cold nights, hungry nights, lonely nights. I'd park near a 24-hour store just to feel safe. Some days, I'd spend my last few dollars on cheap food. Other days, I didn't eat at all. I worked on my business from coffee shops, using free Wi-Fi, pitching ideas to people who didn't care, hearing no so many times. It started to sound normal. Friends stopped replying. People I knew moved on with their lives, college, jobs, relationships, and me? I was stuck, chasing something that didn't exist yet. There were nights I almost gave up, nights I stared at my phone, thinking about calling home, just to hear a familiar voice, just to feel like I belonged somewhere. But then I'd remember his words, don't ever come back, and something inside me would harden again. If you've ever felt like the whole world was against you, even the people who were supposed to support you, take a second and hit that like button, because what happens next is where everything changes. After hundreds of rejections, I finally got one yes. It wasn't big, it wasn't life-changing, but it was enough. Someone believed in my idea, even just a little. That one yes turned into 2, then 3. Then slowly, things started moving. I wasn't rich, I wasn't successful, but I wasn't stuck anymore. And for the first time in years, I felt hope. Years passed, and with every year, I got better, smarter, stronger. I learned from my failures, adapted, kept going. There were still setbacks, still moments where everything almost collapsed, but I didn't quit, because now, it wasn't just about proving them wrong, it was about proving myself right. By year 5, things had changed. I had a team, a real office, clients who respected me, money in the bank. The life I once dreamed of was becoming real. But there was one thing missing, my family. They had no idea, no calls, no messages, nothing. It was like I had disappeared from their world, and in a way, I had. Year 7, everything was different. I was sitting in my office, top floor, glass windows, city skyline in front of me. The same kid who once slept in his car owned this. That's when my assistant walked in. There are 2 people here to see you. They say they're your parents. My heart stopped. For a moment, I didn't know what to do, but then I stood up and walked out. They were sitting in the waiting area, looking older, smaller. My mom stood up first, tears already in her eyes. My dad stayed seated, avoiding eye contact. We saw you on TV, my mom said. You built all this? I nodded. My dad finally looked up, and in a voice I barely recognized, he said, we're proud of you. I waited my whole life to hear that, but standing there, it didn't feel the way I thought it would, because the truth is, I didn't need their approval anymore. I looked at them and calmly said, said, "I didn't do this to make you proud. I did it because you didn't believe in me." Silence filled the room. And in that moment, everything came full circle. Sometimes, the people who doubt you the most become the reason you rise the highest. Not out of revenge, not out of anger, but out of something deeper. A need to prove that you were always enough.